So I've talked to several people about this topic, and I asked them what they think about what spiritual alignment is, because that's really what we're talking about. In, through, as everything, finding spirit, finding our power. Are we in spiritual alignment? And so I asked them what it was and how do they think they got it? And how do they know when they've got it? That's the other question. I started thinking about this because of the holidays. Many of us, with or without family or close friends, we can still feel depressed and lonely. And if we keep following that through, we end up feeling ashamed because we should feel happy and joyful. And I would bet that some of you even felt that way during Thanksgiving, just a little bit, dealing with family perhaps, or friends, or not having family and friends to share the holiday with. And it can be hard to remember that Thanksgiving and Christmas are not only about family or food or gifts, but about God and the spirit or the presence, whatever you want to call it, that lives within each of us and in everything. I believe when we are able to recognize that fact, that this is when we know we are not only grateful for the presence, but we recognize our oneness with it. So I asked friends and coworkers who are not in New Thought, because I wanted to know what they would have to say and how it would be different from what I believe or from other people in the field. So I talked to people who are Christian, all the way to people who feel like they don't actively walk a spiritual path. Some of them asked me to explain what I meant by spiritual alignment. And I said it could be something as simple as feeling like you belong in the world, feeling like what you are doing coincides with what you believe. That seems simple enough to me. And so the reason I wanted to talk to people who aren't in New Thought is because I also became very aware that sometimes overtly spiritual people have blind spots. And we tend to sometimes gloss over things. And the truth is that we don't always listen well to people's stories about trauma and in their difficulties. We say things like, what do you think was in your consciousness? Or what did you learn from that experience? Or without actually saying, wow, that sucks, or how can I help? We often, not always, go to the other extreme, which can be a little bit shaming if someone's already feeling like they're not in spiritual alignment. So the sense of victim blaming, I wanted to stay away from people who would protect their emotional vulnerability with these questions. And I asked two questions of these people. What does it mean to you? And how do you know when you're in or out of alignment? And I have to say that this led to some really interesting conversations with people I've never had extended or in-depth dialogue with before. And I got a lot of mixed reactions. Some people just stared at me like I was a little bit off spiritual alignment. And two said that they had never really thought about it. Others gazed at me, immediately going into deep thought. Like that. And other people just started talking right away. One said, that's really interesting. My wife essentially asked me the same question just last night because she thinks I am not happy and she wants me to talk to someone. And according to Ernest Holmes, through prayer, we recognize there is a spiritual law. And this is really paraphrased. You won't find it as a quote in Science of Mind. He says that through prayer, we recognize there is a spiritual law that has always existed. And we put ourselves in alignment with that law through prayer. And in another section, Holmes said that spiritual law is the realization that God is the indwelling in the soul and spirit of all. in that we should think of the divine being such as completely responsive to everything that we do. So that in that sense, there should come to us a sense of communion, a spontaneous sense of irresistible union. God is personal to all who are receptive to the divine flow, which enables us to communicate with spirit. That's how Holmes essentially defines being spiritually aligned. So in my mind, divine order is having faith with the unfolding of the universe, and spiritual alignment is the practice of recognition. I don't know, other people may have different definitions. So one woman who identifies as strongly Christian said her concept of spiritual alignment is when she acts and behaves in his image as he would. And this encompasses her family, her work, and her friends. That is when everything is going right, that she might be giving out energy that helps others find their path and energy that others need. And I like that because there's that concept of being in spiritual alignment that means that you're making a difference in other people's lives. And another person said that they know they're not in spiritual alignment when they're bogged down and they have what they say a lot of cognitive dissonance going on. They said how they resolve those moments of cognitive dissonance is by spending time with their family or being in nature, and that brings them back to self. And then they asked me, is that spiritual alignment? Some of the people I talked to said that spiritual alignment is being authentic, liking oneself. They said it's a sense of belonging, to fit in. This person said, when I am authentic, I am feeling good in my own skin because I have a habit of hiding who I am in the world. Spiritual alignment was also said to have compassion for yourself, because being compassionate with yourself is harder than being compassionate with others. And another person said, I feel spiritually aligned when I'm plugged into my essentials. I feel out of alignment when I'm too busy and when I don't take the time to go outside or be part of community service or to be an ally. He said, I think our beliefs are reflected in our actions. Sri Aurobindo in The Life Divine wrote that those who have possessed the calm can perceive out of it its silence, the perennial supply of energies that work in the universe. Much like when we meditate, that welling up within us can often set us forth in the day. So the point of this is that spiritual alignment is individualized. And I would give that everyone here has their own definition or description of what that means to you. With these similar and yet diverse definitions, we also know when we are out of alignment. So what can we do? Me, when I start to feel fragmented, and I know I'm out of alignment because I start telling the same old stories. And I think I talked about those stories here before, that I believe I'm not likable. I believe that I am poor. I believe I'm too old to start new things. Though they come up in different situations. I said it the other day, and a friend of mine said, that's an old story. I've heard that one before. And I said, thank you. And so I have to stop and go, why am I telling these old stories about myself to people who love me? So when I start to feel fragmented, I start taking little steps and I test the waters, kind of, so to speak. A while back, one of my teachers gave me a list of 10 steps by a woman called Sonia Matajeko, and of things that you can do when you feel out of alignment. And it's not suggesting that one has to journal, that one has to pray, one has to meditate or do yoga. None of those things are bad, but the truth is, when I'm out of alignment, I don't want to do them, right? I just don't want to do them. And they're not bad. But I always found I can do one of the following. I can ask for help. For someone like me who loves to control things, I can ask for help. I can ask for guidance from people and mentors that I care for and that I believe in. I can become more aware of my environment, start noticing the coincidences that are actually happening in my life, because coincidences don't happen when you're out of alignment. You only recognize them when you're in, and then you go, oh, wow, that's amazing. And if we can start recognizing the world around us and become more aware of our environment, read more about what you're curious about. I'm not talking about, spiritual books like Life Divine or Science of Mind. I'm talking about things that you're really curious about and things that inspire you. It might be gardening, it might be painting, it might be reading a good mystery novel, or just a novel of fiction of someone that you admire. There's always inspiration in those type of things. Just take more midday walks. Get out. Just get up from your desk or from the TV or from the typewriter or computer and go for a brief walk, even if it's just around your house. Get out. Change your environment. Invest in more daily me time. It could be a spiritual practice, or it could be something totally different. Maybe you've always wanted to dust. Like, dusting is a big deal for me. It happens once a quarter, and it's become a ceremony. And I pick everything up, and as I dust it, I think about where it came from and how it ended up on my shelves. And that I always feel better. And it only really takes 20 minutes, if that, to dust. After, you have 2 cats and cat dust, and, set loving boundaries. Know what you want to do so that you can say yes, and you don't have to go around saying no to what you don't want to do. Just know what you want and who you are. Say yes to opportunities. Actively try to let go. And the truth is, most things just don't matter in the long run. And if you're a control person, letting go is one of the most difficult things to do. So take a deep breath and just maybe shake your head, but let it go, because if you can't control it, you can't control it. And remember to breathe. Take back control of where your attention is going by taking a deep breath. Ask yourself how you are doing. And this isn't enough to just say, how am I doing right now? It's like, am I acting within my own value system? Am I behaving with respect? Am I treating people with love and generosity? How am I doing? Because I don't do those things when I'm not in spiritual alignment. And finally, again, get clear on your values. No matter what I do, if I'm not aligned with my core values, then I know I'm not acting with spirit or in spiritual alignment. Sometimes I wonder, how can it be true that everything in my life has led me to this moment, to this place, in this time, when sometimes I look around me and I feel as though I just don't belong. Anybody else ever feel that way? That sometimes you walk into a room and you just don't belong, even if I've walked into that room 100 times before. And I wonder how all of my experiences lead me to this place. And that every good and every bad day has been preparing me and each of you for this very moment right here, right now. And I wonder about that. And that I recognize that life is not only full of surprises, it's also just basically full of gifts. And we have to remember that gifts come in all shapes and sizes and emotions. I remember when I was in practitioner training at the Center for Spiritual Living, Asheville, and Barbara Waterhouse told us to stop writing. And she said, look at your pen. Just look at your pen. And she didn't say why. And so we're all sitting there looking at our pen. And then she said, how do you feel? What do you see? And we're all still looking at the pen because we didn't know where she was going. And she said, where is it? Where did it come from? How was it made? Where did you get it? Was it a gift? Or was it like so many other pens in our world that we somehow, they just end up in our pockets or our purses? She said, what is the purpose of that object that you're staring at now for 3 minutes? What does it do for you? How was it created? Who thought of it? Who actually created the pen? And then what are the materials it's made out of? So we all sat there and we looked at it. And eventually I realized that everything, anything you may be touching right now, everything you're holding in your hands, you putting on as jewelry, pins, everything we touch comes from one place, and it essentially comes from the earth. And if the earth is sacred ground, then everything we touch, everything we view is sacred as well. That's an easy way to remember and to stay in spiritual alignment. So when we recognize the holiness of everything, then we know we are also finding ourselves in spirit. It doesn't matter what's going on in the world. You are worthy, and you are worthy of love. Love is a bridge and not a wall if we let it be. And this is true of what happens between people as well as with what we do. So look around you at everything and think to yourself, what is the benefit to me? Where did it come from? Who made it? Who even imagined its creation in the first place? What are the materials it's made of, and how are they combined to create exactly what you need in this moment to put that roast in the oven? For every person, there are thousands of divine-driven objects in your life, every moment and every day. Gratitude is not only being thankful, it's recognizing the origins of spirit in every gift, whether that is initially perceived as positive or negative. A gift, it lies in there because it's come to you for some reason, somehow. And then remember, as Unity Minister Edwin Gaines used to say, what do children of cats grow up to become? Cats? Cats? You can say that back to me. Cats. So what do children of God grow up to become? God. We are the living embodiment of that. So go live your life knowing that spirit moves in, as, and through each of you. We are all simply manifestations of each other. And so it is.